Hello guys, how's it going? For today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this water and faucet animation. So for this, we're going to need both Blender and Keyshot. We're going to have to make the animation in Blender first, and then we're going to have to export it and then import it into Keyshot. You don't have to watch the Blender part if you don't want to. I'm going to upload the raw file of this animation here, but you might not be able to use because you might have a different faucet, for example. So what is Blender? Blender is a free 3D modeling software you can download from blender.org. It's a great software. I'm also kind of new to it, so I'm not very professional at it, but I'm going to show you how to make that water animation that you saw, and I'm going to show you how to render it. And obviously this animation is not perfect, but it works for this tutorial, and the more you spend time on it, the better it gets. So let's begin. So when you download it and when you install it, it's going to make you go through some initial visual interface, user interface settings. So yours might look a little different than mine, just like the colors and the highlights and stuff. Then you have to go to New File and General. Okay, so this video is not a Blender tutorial per se, but I'm going to go over some basic introduction on movement. So for zooming in and zooming out, you just use your scroll wheel and your mouse. You can also hold Control and then click your scroll wheel and then just like drag your mouse up and down. You can do that. To rotate in your scene, you just hold your scroll wheel again and then you just rotate like this. And then to move or to pan around the scene, you hold Shift and scroll wheel as well. And then you move your scene like this. Okay, so these are some basics. So we have a default cube here. If you want to edit this default cube, you can press Tab or you can go to Edit mode and it changes the highlight of the cube. And then you can like change each of these vertices. You can change the edges. You can change the surfaces. I'm going to go over that later. But for today's video, I'm just going to show you the water, the liquid physics. And for that, we're going to need, well, first we're going to need a faucet, something that the water comes out of it. And then we're going to need a box or a sink because Blender needs to know where the water is going to. The water is not going into infinity, it has to be in a box. So like for all the splashes and all the cool animations that happen. So we can use this default cube as our boundary, or the box, or the sink, whichever you want to call it. And we have to resize this first. So what helps is that you have the dimensions of your sink, and then you make a cube based on those dimensions, or like a box kind of thing. And then you also need to have the distance in between the bottom of your sink and the top of your faucet. So say it's like 10 inches, and then you have to measure the 10 inches from the bottom of this box and then make a circle in the box. I'm gonna show you now. So for that, we're gonna need to scale this box a little bit. So if you press S as in scale, you see that you can scale it. Now again, if you hold Z or Y or X based on our 3 axes, it'll scale in only that one axis. So for example, you want it to be scaled on Y axis. So we're just gonna press Y, and then as you can see, we can only scale it on the Y axis. Right now we want it to be on the X axis, so it looks like a proper sink. And let's make it a little larger. Okay, looks fine. And now if you want to not use the default cube, you can go to Add, you can go to Mesh, you can add a cube, circle, whatever. The next step is to add a circle. Now I'm assuming that our faucet is has a circular pipe inside it, so it's not like conical, or it's not triangular. It's just a regular good old, cylinder pipe. So we're gonna turn on the X-ray mode, and it's this one. It's called viewport shading. We turn it on, and now we can see the inside. We go to add, and we want to add a circle. So this is our circle. Actually, let me Control Z, circle, and then before you move around in your scene, you can change like the radius and where it is, and like the vertices, how detailed it looks like, stuff like that. So the vertices, I'm just gonna keep it at 32. It means this circle is consisted of 32 dots connected together. So if you increase those dots, then you'll have a smoother circle. The radius, I'm gonna change the radius to say 0.15 meters. And I think it's too small based on our sync. Since I do not have the dimensions, I'm just eyeballing everything. So let's do 0.25. 0.2 works at least. Okay, 0.2 works. And we also want it to be, we don't want it to be in the center. We want it to be closer to like one of the walls. So we can change the Y location, and I believe this is good enough. And also we can change the height. So we go up, and I think this is fine for now. Don't worry, we can change those things later. So now if you just click on your scene wherever, you will not have those initial settings that you had. So right now, I believe our circle is in the right position, but we can change it if you want to. I'm gonna show you how. You click on it, and then you click G as in grab, I don't know. And then again, just like the scale tool, you can use the letters X, Y, and Z based on the axis to move it. So if you wanna just get it closer to the bottom of the sink, we just press Z, and then we can move it around like this on the Z axis. So we're just gonna bring it down a little bit. Looks fine, I think. So now our cube, if we go to this mode, you can see that the cube is a 3D model that we have. It's hollow on the inside, but it's fine, doesn't matter. But our circle is just still a circle. It's not even 2D, it's just a line. So for that, we need to go to edit mode. So you can see my mouse. It's like in the left corner of my screen. It's on object mode automatically, and then you can change it to edit mode, or you can just use the tab key on your keyboard. It's just a shortcut for it. And then we are in the edit mode. You can see that you can choose all these vertices, or you can choose the edges, or you can choose a face. Right now we don't have a face. We want a face. So for that, we're gonna press F as in face. So we fill these edges. Now we have a face, and now we want to extrude it. So we press E for extrude, and it goes up and down, as you can see. Right now Z is selected. So if you don't want the Z to be selected, you can just press X or Y, whatever. But right now I want the Z to be selected, the Z axis. And that's because this is not my faucet. This is just the direction of the water that's coming out of the faucet. And I'm assuming that my faucet is parallel to the bottom of the sink. So if your faucet is not parallel to the bottom of the sink, you can like rotate it and say like it's slightly angled or something. So you can rotate it with the G shortcut on keyboard. You can rotate your initial circle and also your extruded circle if you select them all. And then also if you remember those shortcuts, remember that we have like the move tool here, we have the rotate tool, we have scale and transform and other stuff. So you can just use those settings over there. You don't have to remember the shortcuts. So the next thing we want to do, we want to check to see if both ends of the cylinder is closed. So for that, we're gonna hide our main cube, and then we're gonna change the shading mode, and we go to object mode. And as you can see, it is closed on all sides, and we have 32 faces on the cylinder side, which is fine. So we're gonna turn on cube, and we go to X-ray mode again. So the next thing you want to do, you want to add a liquid animation physics to it. So for that, you go to physics section here. It's physics properties. So you click on it, you go to fluid, and you go to flow. For your water, you go to flow. Now the default is on smoke, you change it to liquid, and then the flow behavior, instead of geometry, you do inflow. So it constantly adds water to your scene or to your box. The initial velocity is just like, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's just the initial amount of water that is coming out of your faucet or whatever. So we're just gonna change that to -1, and remember it's on the z-axis because our faucet is parallel to the bottom of the sink. So if your faucet is slightly angled, you want to change, say, z and, for example, y, you know, because it has to look normal. So -1 is fine, I think. Yeah, that should be fine. And right now we have 250 frames. And for all the 250 frames, this faucet is going to add water into our scene. Maybe we don't want that, maybe we do. It's really up to you. But if you do not want that, you're going to have to uncheck use flow and then go to, say, frame 99, or let's go to frame 89, and then you hold I, and then you turn on the use flow. You go to frame 90, again you hold I, and then you turn it off. So right now it's gonna add water to our scene until frame 89, and then starting from frame 90 to up to 250, it's gonna stop the water, and it's just gonna show like the animations of like splashing and everything else. So you can change that, it's up to you. Now that we have our water, we can go and change the box. So again, you go to physics properties, you go to fluid, but instead of flow, you go to domain. And then the default is on gas, you change that to liquid. And the resolution division, that's obviously the resolution, the higher it is, the smoother it looks like. The animation that you saw was at 300, but it's going to take several hours for your computer or your system, depending on your system, to bake everything. But for the preview, I'm just going to do 64. I think 64 is enough. And I'm not entirely sure what these things do, but I remember seeing someone doing a half instead of 1, and then changing this minimum to 2. I believe that's like the amount of time it takes to process the animation, the physics animation. So you scroll down, and this is the section you want to look at, and you want to play with the settings. So say your plug hole is open in your sink, and the water is actually leaking, or it's like sinking. The water it's going down. So for that, you want to change the particle radius. If you hover your cursor over a setting, it shows you the command and what it does. So it says decrease it if the simulation seems to gain volume, and then increase it if the simulation appears to leak volume. So for the animation that you saw, I believe I did 650 or 0.650. So we're just gonna do 0.7. I believe let's do 0.6 actually. It's lighter, and the flip ratio is all the splashes that's like the amount of splashes that's gonna make. So the more it is, it's gonna make a messier splash. So I'm just gonna change that to 0.9, for example, for now. And the rest of it, I'm just gonna leave them as is, but you can play with them with like sampling or like randomness, things like that. It's really up to you. We go to particles, and in order to make it look more realistic, you want to turn on all of these, bubbles, foam, and spray, and then we go here and then we change it to spray, foam, and bubble. So if you increase the up-res factor, it's going to make it look more natural, but it's also going to take a longer time to bake your physics. Okay, so we're just going to keep it at 1. You go to mesh. I'm not exactly sure what they are. You have to turn on the mesh, and this is adding obviously a mesh to your physics, and you do have to turn it on, but I'm not super sure about the settings. So if you want to play with them, if you want to look at the descriptions, you can, but I found out that this is fine as is. You scroll down, and you go to cache, it's under cache, and then I want my animation to be 200 frames instead of 250. So I'm also gonna change this. And so apparently in older versions of Blender, you could not see a preview of your physics animation, but in this version you can. So you change this to replay if it's on modular or all. And let me scroll down, see is everything okay. Seems like it. And then we go to the beginning of our animation, and then we press play, and nothing is going on. Okay, so sometimes for some weird reason, maybe it's just the software is lag. I'm not sure what it is, but it just doesn't want to work. The preview doesn't want to work. So we're just gonna have to just like, I don't know, play with it, play with the settings, and just spend some time on it and see what works and what doesn't work. And I was playing with the liquid settings, and I realized if I check this is planar setting on, then it would work again. And I'm not sure why it didn't work the first time, but now if I play the animation, it's gonna play it from there, and it's super thick. The water flow is thick, and I have not figured out why that happens. But it basically is that. It's just you have to play with it, and I guess you just gain more experience after a while, and you know what to do. After you liked the preview, you just scroll down again and you change the replay to all. And also remember to change the resolution. So I usually I used to do like 150, but then 150 is just too low. So I did 200 and 300. 200, I think it's good. It depends on your system how long it takes. So 200 to 300, that's decent enough. So I'm not gonna bake this one, and I'm gonna use the one that I already had and I already baked, which was 300. And I guess it took me it took my laptop like several hours to bake it. So I'm just gonna use that. And after you changed your resolution, you go to bake. Where is it? You start baking, and the percentage, you can see the percentage of the baking here. And when it's done, I'm gonna show you what to do next. So when you baked your animation, you can replay it just to see how it looks like again. And if you wanna change it, you have to go to cache again, and then you have to click on free all, and then it'll free it, and then you can still like change the settings and everything else. But I'm not gonna do that now. So say this is your final bake, this is your final animation, and now you want to export it. So you click on your cube, this is your cube, you go to export, and it's the .abc alembic, I believe that's how it's pronounced. So you click on it, and where is it? So just selected objects, only selected objects, and then you save it as tutorial, and you export it. Now that would also take up to a few minutes for it to export it. It really depends on the resolution again and your system. So the rest of it is pretty straightforward. You want to drag and drop your alembic file into your Keyshot scene, which I'm not going to do right now, but the only thing you need to know is the deformable meshes. It's usually on keyframe transforms. You want to change it into deformable meshes. So you import it, it's going to take a few minutes. As you can see, it's going to take a few minutes. And then when it's imported, I'm just going to cancel it. When it's imported, you are going to have both the keyframes, the animation, and also the water and the material itself. But the material, it's like a grayish material. It's something like this. It's just a clay material. So you want to go to your materials library and look up water, and we have like these liquid things, liquid water with bubbles, liquid water with ripples. I personally use this one, liquid water with bubbles. But if you can't find the material in your material library, you just have to go to Cloud Library, and you just find it from here. As you can see, I already looked up water, and we have like liquid water with cellular noise. We have different kinds of material, and then you just drag and drop it, and you have the water animation. Now it might be slow. It might be like 500 frames, so it's like 15 seconds or something, which you don't want it to be that slow, obviously. You can just reduce the duration like that, and it'll look natural. You can just do multiple things on it if you want to. You can play with your faucet animation, which I'm not gonna go over that. That's just the basic animation tutorial, which I can go over later. Um, but that's it. It's actually pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy. Um, I hope you enjoyed this very long tutorial. At least for me, it was kind of hectic. And please let me know if you have any questions. I'll answer your questions. And if you learned anything, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.